Burke's on his feet. He looks up and gives me a grin and says, "Hey dude, you too must be from Marin." Marin County's A-OK, from Tam to Stinson all the way to MA. Fresh organic veggies in the market every day. The Dennis, Dylan, and NW.
Welcome to the RUN TMC Podcast. That is the RUN, the Marin County Podcast, a podcast about basketball in Marin County and also about so many other things that are sometimes stream of consciousness. And this morning, Dave, welcome to the podcast. I see you on Riverside. You're looking just a little bit somber this morning. And sorry, because I know you got something hard to do today. And it's something that will probably resonate with a lot of our listeners. So
Yeah. Hi, Duff. Good to see you. Thanks. Yeah, we're needing to put one of our family dogs down today. She's not doing well. So she's been a great buddy for many years for my fam, June. So it's an old cliche, but we don't deserve dogs. And it's so true. They're a huge part of our lives. And the math sucks with dogs. I was explaining this to my kids last night. It's just they don't live as long as we do. So we all have to deal with this at some point, and it's no fun. But thank you, Duff. Good to see you, and nice to talk about basketball.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry. It's a tough conversation. It's a tough thing, but also, in a family situation with kids, it's an opportunity to sort of talk about death in a way that sometimes we can't. And it's a little safer than, a person, a loved one. And it's an opportunity to celebrate and, be able to have conversations about how we celebrate lives, whether you're sprinkling June's ashes into the ether or having some other wake for her. But anyway, I know Kenya and Jordan are thinking about her today because I told them to, and they'll have a biscuit in her honor a little bit later.
Appreciate that. And this is a fitting episode to have this little conversation. This was another one of our really meaningful discussions. I mean, all of them have been meaningful in different ways, but this one with Kirsten Moore, which we'll get to in a little bit, Kirsten had to deal with tragedy and death in her family, and she overcame it. So yeah, it's about, as we've said a lot, Duff, it's about more than basketball, but it's fun to talk about basketball and instructive as well. So let's get to hoops, Duff.
Let's get to hoops. First, Dave, thank you to our sponsors, Batiste Rum, The Hub, and Nike San Domenico Camps, courtesy of the legendary Skagger coach, Jeff Skaggs, who sends us great material via text all the time. We really appreciate Jeff. We are, as per our last episode, we've had some interest, Dave, but we are looking for formalizing additional sponsors for the rest of season 2. So if you're interested, please reach out to us. You can hit us up on Instagram. You can send us an email at the RUN TMC Podcast at gmail.com. You can come over Dave's house and drop by an early Hanukkah present, or come to any of the 4 home games we have this week, Dave, at the Red Brown tournament coming up this weekend. And then tonight, which is Tuesday, which will have happened by the time we air this podcast. Hopefully we will see some fans there in our game against Tam. So, Dave, we're going to get into a little dime dishing, but first, do you want to give us your upcoming schedule for San Domenico? Any home games for the boys or the girls that you'd like to mention?
We got a big home game coming up on Saturday, December 14th against our friends from Redwood.
You'll have Carly back?
I hope so. Carly's been hurt, so hopefully she'll be back. That would be very helpful for us to have our Stanford commit playing. But
what's she averaging point-wise, Dave? Is she in the 30s right now?
The answer, Duff, is a lot. She had.
I don't want to give anything away to your opponents, but she's really good.
Yeah, Zach, guard Carly. She had 40 against Granada in our first round win in the Sonoma Valley tournament, but then she hurt her foot, so she didn't play much against Archie, and did not score. And then we played Montgomery, and she didn't play. But the other kids stepped up and made them competitive games, and it's actually a great experience. Here's one little. I'll do a mini dime, Duff, and then you can get into your
A nickel?
dime. But
Is this a
yeah,
nickel?
sure. A hey penny,
Okay.
a loonie for our Canadian friends who are going to experience 25% tariffs. There's a Jocko Willink, who's an old Navy SEAL. He's got a podcast. He's a writer. He's great, but he was a high level Navy SEAL, and he tells this story about in SEAL training when something goes bad, that his teacher and guide leader would always say, "Good." So somebody's sick and can't do this mission, you got to step up. Good, or the delivery is late, and now we got to figure out another way to accomplish this task. Good. So when something bad happens, you just think good. It's a chance to grow and get better. And so I've been telling that story a lot to my team when we've had injuries or adversity, including, not having our best player and leader and kind of heartbeat of our team, Carly. What a great opportunity for the other kids to step up and learn. And so I think it's a good message. When something goes bad, just say good.
Yeah, you'll probably look back at the end of the season and say that was, not great for Carly. You never want to lose a player of her caliber for any period of time, but really good for the rest of the team. And you don't know necessarily what it's going to provoke out of your other players. So you might get in Isaac Garendo just kind of showing some speed and get to the end zone, and you don't know until you're in that situation. Dave, we are straying from script because we do plan to have another episode, a short episode that we release soon that has updates from Marin County basketball. This episode, as we talked about offline, is one of a more general interest podcast topic. It's still basketball, but less about Marin County basketball. So for our correspondents who are sending us updates, thank you. And we're going to compile those and put those into a separate episode and give a update on where we are, in particular with high school sports in Marin County, high school basketball, which is just kind of getting started. Teams are 3, 4, 5 games in. Tournaments are happening. So we will have updates on that very soon. So, Dave, we're planning to jump into the interview, but I do have a dime for you.
Go.
This one was decided upon before learning about June's fate. So I apologize that it might not be quite appropriate, the name of it, which is Kill Drill. And so without apology out of the way. So first of all, a kill, Dave, we have talked about this, I'm pretty sure. A kill is what? Hit me with a kill.
3 stops in a row.
3 stops in a row. So it's 3 stops in a row. I sometimes track these in the game for our team, and I find it sometimes hard and distracting because you might get 2 stops and then they get a bucket. You got to recount, and then you have like a couple marks on the paper. I'm like, are we at 2 or are we at 0? But anyway, kill is 3 stops in a row. Recently, with our program, we decided for a game on the road that we were going to really focus half-court defense, try and get 3 kills to start the game before we went into any other type of defense, press or otherwise. And our coach, one of our assistant coaches, Brandon Johnson, a great coach who's at Redwood, now he's at Archie the last 2 years. He had our team do a kill drill in practice, half-court. It's 5 versus 5 in the half-court, man-to-man. And it's a shot clock. It can be, he used 13 seconds, but it can be 10 seconds, whatever you want. Maybe it can be 20 seconds if it's a different level of play. And you have to get 3 stops in a row to come off of defense. So the stop, though, is not just getting a stop as in preventing a bucket. You can change the constraints. And so what Brandon had them doing was a stop had to be a possession that ended within the 13 seconds that did not include a bucket, an offensive rebound, or a paint touch, or any defensive lack of positioning or communication. So you had coaches all around the court, the half court. They were watching. If they saw someone improperly move into help and not be in full help side or not be flooding like we want them to, then that was an automatic reset. And so There was one team of 5 that was on there for a long time, and eventually Brandon took mercy on them and switched them on to offense. So you can kind of change around that drill however you want, but it does bring a sense of urgency, and in particular, a sense of urgency in terms of preventing people to getting into the paint. And then on offense, like you win the drill just by getting into the paint. So on offense, the guys are really trying to get into the paint via the dribble, pass, attack, closeout, whatever. So I thought it was a great drill. Gets pretty physical. So you probably don't want to run it all that often, but like as one that you're really trying to get ready for a game where you're going to be playing a lot of half court man, especially against teams that have dynamic ball handlers that get in the paint. It's a good one. So kill drill.
That's fantastic. I would love to use it. Given injuries to my team, we very rarely have 10 players that are healthy at a practice so we can go 5-on-5. But when we do, I am certainly going to use that one. I love the idea of no paint touch, no offensive rebound, emphasizing the fundamentals, not just the result. The journey to the result is extraordinarily important. So
at a lower level, you could do, like say CYO, you could do 5 players on offense and 4 on defense and make them scramble, right? Especially you put your best 4 on defense, you have 5 on offense. I could see that, being a great drill for a lower age level team. So yeah. So think about it, Dave. Think about it.
That's fantastic. Good job, Coach Johnson and Archie squad. Very cool. Thank you, Duff.
Let's get into the intro. I think before we do, just a couple upcoming notes, Dave. So as I said, we're going to be getting out a shorter episode with some updates from Marin County basketball sometime within the next 10 days. And then we know for sure on December 21st, which is World Basketball Day, we will release our interview with Professor David Hollander, who is a professor at NYU, who was the driving force behind the World Basketball Day UN resolution, as well as the author of the book, How Basketball Can Save the World. This was a great, really fun interview, really, really dynamic thinker and speaker. So that will be on December 21st. So mark your calendars. That will be the next interview release that we put out there, Dave.
Yeah, Hollander was amazing. I love that conversation. That's a really fun one.
All right, let's get into it. Kirsten Moore, Coach Moore.
Yeah, so very pleased that we were able to sit down with Kirsten Moore. So Kirsten, maiden name Kirsten McKnight. She grew up in Marin. She's from Larkspur. She went to Redwood. She was a 4-year all-league player for Redwood in the early 90s. She's Redwood's all-time leading scorer. She passed Karen Horstmeyer. I think that Kirsten is still the all-time leading scorer. Jenny Walker put up a lot of points too, but also apologies to Jenny if she passed Kirsten, but I believe it's still Kirsten. I've known Kirsten since high school. We were really good friends in high school, so I remember this particular story well. We talk about it in the interview, but she's a legend she broke her hand playing soccer. She was a really good soccer goalie for an NCS winning Redwood soccer team. Basketball was her favorite sport. She broke her shooting hand. She was a great shooter. So instead of just sitting out and waiting, Kirsten is Kirsten. She played basketball quickly with a soft cast on her hand and scored 19 points a game shooting left-handed. And if you see Kirsten, she's, not particularly big, not particularly fast, not particularly strong. She's just a really good basketball player. So she scored shooting threes, hitting mid-range pull-ups with her offhand. And it was incredible. And I would go to these games and people in the stands were just incredulous about this. So Kirsten was a stud. She was inducted into the Marin Athletic Foundation Hall of Fame 10 years ago. She was a first ballot entrant. She walked on in college at University of Oregon. She was a recruited walk-on, so she went up there knowing she was on the team, but she did not have a scholarship. She then earned a scholarship, played all 4 years. She was a team captain as a senior. She played in the NCAA tournament all 4 years and was named most inspirational player by her teammates in her senior year. After graduating in 1998, she was an assistant coach for Oregon for 3 years, during which time the Ducks won 2 Pac-10 championships and made 3 trips to the NCAA tournament. She then moved over, came home and was the assistant coach at Cal under Karen Horstmeyer. Kirsten was actively involved in recruiting, and some of the great recruiting classes that Karen had at Cal were helped in large part by Kirsten. She left Cal to become head coach at Westmont College in Santa Barbara, where she is now entering her 20th season. And she's had an incredible run at Westmont. Westmont is now Division II, I believe. They were NAIA for years, but she's won over 400 games. She has 2 national titles, just built an incredible program. But one thing that we talk about a lot in this interview toward the end, which I can't recommend enough that people listen all the way to the end, is Kirsten dealt with just unimaginable tragedy. She was married to a wonderful guy named Alex. Kirsten was pregnant, and her husband, Alex, died of complications from a surgery related to his Crohn's disease. So it happened suddenly and was obviously devastating. Soon thereafter, Kirsten gave birth to their daughter, Alexis, and amazingly, Kirsten continued to coach and ended up coaching the team that season, and they went on to win the national championship. And Bill Plaschke, a great writer, journalist for the LA Times, wrote an article called Outplaying Grief. I highly recommend you Google it and read it. But Kirsten tells the story here beautifully, and it's an incredible story of overcoming adversity and the power of community, the power of how basketball helped her, get through this period of just unimaginable grief. Her faith played a big role in that as well. So it's a really incredible story. Kirsten's an awesome person. You can see she's got great energy. This is a fun conversation about, we get into the weeds on basketball, but it's also about a lot more than basketball.
Yeah, and I don't know why her story is not a movie already. Just really incredible story and incredible resilience. And you can see why she's such an amazing coach, because someone who has that amount of resilience in themselves is very likely to be able to pass it on to her players and those around her. So very, very impressive. And we're very thankful that she gave us her time in this interview. She had some other amazing stories about just battling back from other adversity early on in her career, whether it be the left hand shooting, yep, or having appendicitis and then having to come off the bench for a period of time. Where she didn't lose her spot, she just had a surgical procedure, right? But she was resilient then. So we're very grateful, and we'll get on to the interview, Dave. Just a note that I don't recall. I don't think it was anything I had better to do, but I did have to drop off this interview at about the 45-minute mark. So I look forward to re-listening to that section where I was doing something that I probably could have gotten out of, Dave, if I just tried hard, if I'd been resilient enough.
You're a busy and important man, Duffy.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Kirsten.
That's what I tell Angela all the time. That's what
of course. Yeah. Thanks again to Kirsten for joining us. This was awesome. Really worth a listen. And thanks again to our sponsors. Thanks to our listeners for all the support. We've been getting great feedback for season 2, and we're excited to keep it going.
Yeah, and condolences to you and the family, Dave, with June and today. And hopefully that goes as well as it possibly can. And thank you to Luke Esterkin and Stroke 9. And Luke is going to be a correspondent for us for Branson. His son Kai is on the Branson team. So thank you, Luke, for that and for taking us out on the backside of this interview. And we'll be back again on World Basketball Day, December 21st. Thank you to all. And thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Duff. See ya.
All right. We're going. Hi, Kirsten.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Duffy. Good to see you guys.
Good morning. You got your hoodie on. I love it.
I do. Got to represent.
Kirsten Moore, maiden name Kirsten McKnight, wearing her Run TMC hoodie that she shelled out her hard-earned cash for. Thank you for the support, Kier. We appreciate it.
Big bucks had to support.
So we're honored to have my friend Kirsten McKnight, and I don't say my friend lightly. Full disclosure, Kirsten and I have been good friends. How long? What? I was trying to figure it out. 1991, maybe? Is that right?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometime in high school.
We were friends in high school. And so Kirsten, Duffy and
Played
I
a lot of basketball together.
we played a lot of. We're going to talk about that. We're going
Yes.
to talk about that. That's part of my preamble here. So we've already given your background to our listeners. So we've walked through your bio. So we're not going to go through every year of your life, even though I know it
That's
by
good
heart.
because I'm
But
really old now, and that would take the whole time that we have. So
thanks for saying that. I'm a year older than you are, and Duffy's even older than both of us, Kirsten. So
okay, I can feel
That's
like
why
a spring
Duffy's-
chicken on this call then today.
For sure. But I will say that I would look at the guests we've had on this podcast, and we're now into second season. I would lump them into 3 buckets, pardon the pun. So one bucket is great basketball players, just people Marin kids who grew up, thrived in high school, played in college, potentially played in the pros. We have people like Brooke Smith and Jordan Lewis and Dave Granucci and Dave Liss and Kenny Woodard, those kind of people, right? So we have the great players, and they're really fun to talk to. We love that. Then bucket 2 would be the great coaches, people like, Karen Horstmeyer, who also was a great player, Rick Winter, Jonas Honeck, Alex Pribble. Again, a lot of the great coaches also fall into bucket 1, but we love nerding out on the coaching side. And then bucket 3 would be kind of just interesting people for a variety of reasons. So we've had, Dan Dibley, Dan. We've got Chris Ballard, Duffy's brother, who's a Sports Illustrated writer. We have Adrian Payne, who was a great player but served in the Army. And the one that really a lot of people think about, and that was really meaningful to us, was Melissa Boyle, who's battling cancer. And for you've dealt with unimaginable tragedy in your life, and you've overcome that. And it's an incredible and inspiring story that I want to talk about. So you're really unique, Kier, in that you fall firmly into all 3 buckets. You were an unbelievable basketball player. We'll talk about your playing career, but Division I, one of the best players to ever play in Marin, hands down. You are an incredible coach, have won national titles at the college level, and you have this incredible story of inspiration. So we're very honored to have you. When we started this podcast over a year ago, you were one of the first names on the list that we had as we were sitting around having coffee. So thank you for agreeing to do this.
Yeah, super happy to be here.
So my lasting memory of Kirsten, before we start getting into the discussion, is you said you and I played a lot of basketball together. So when Kirsten and I were in high school and we were hanging out, we weren't really going to parties that much. We would sit in my driveway and shoot hoops together and talk. And that was how we hung out. Or we'd be at the Redwood gym, or we'd be at, the Fairfax Pavilion with Fulton. You were a gym rat, and so was I. And that was, a simpler time, right before cell phones. So those are my memories of you. And so it's been so fun to see you take your basketball career to where you've taken it. So I kind of want to start with you as the player. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to Kirsten McKnight. The young Kirsten McKnight grew up in Larkspur. So when did you first start playing basketball? What do you recall?
I mean, when I tell the story, people ask this question. I'm like, I can't remember a time that I didn't love the game, to be honest. I obviously don't remember back this far, but my parents tell me my first word I ever said was ball. And I have just, I played a variety of sports growing up and enjoyed all of them. Feel like I had a lot of success in a number of different sports. But basketball kind of just always had something different to me in my passion level for it. And I think when I was in middle school, that probably really kind of came to the forefront. And, growing up prior to that, my older brother, Billy, who's continues to be involved in basketball and also had a similar love for the game. He was just honestly, he was my hero, but also my best friend, and also was the best big brother you could ever ask for, because he was totally cool with his younger sister, tagging along with him everywhere, playing with him and his friends, and, taking me and being the only girl in an all boys 3-on-3 tournament. He wanted me on his team. He was going to get me open looks, he was just incredible. And so, I would say that just playing with him and his friends and following him and just trying to follow in his footsteps, I think is where kind of started. Both of my parents, my dad was just a junkie and he coached CYO. And so was very I would say just work ethic was not an option in my family at whatever it was you did. You could be different things, but whatever it was you were doing, you were going to work really hard at it. And so I think that was kind of instilled in me. But then it was in 7th grade and I was at Lavin basketball camps, which Dave, we spent a lot of hours at Lavin basketball camps together over the summers. But yeah, they brought in Jennifer Azzi to speak, and she had just won a national championship at Stanford and talked about what it was like to play college basketball in the Pac-10. And that's really when like the true like dream of mine was born, that I wanted to play college basketball. And it was like from then on, it didn't matter if I was, in soccer season, club soccer, whatever. It was like I was going to find time to work on my basketball skills every day of the year, no matter what. Like even with the other things, basketball kind of trumped everything just in my passion and love for the game. So yeah, there's just kind of, I think arguably I was actually better at soccer. I was a goalie and would have had
really good at soccer.
I was probably, I had more success at soccer, won championships, won NCS titles. And I had a lot, I think, better college prospects, so to speak, on the soccer side, but it didn't have my heart the way that basketball did.
So Bill, your brother Billy, awesome guy, great coach. Steve Lavin, one of Steve's assistants at University of San Diego, was very actively involved in prolific prep. He's a fantastic coach, was a great player, played at Redwood as well. So growing up, you talked about tagging along with Billy, and I remember that. Would you play one-on-one against Billy?
Oh, yeah. Yep. It was hard to get a shot off against him. I think it
how'd you
helped
do?
me get my range because I really could shoot threes, or I ended up resorting to like scoop shots when I would like drive by to just try to shoot in front of him. But he never took it easy on me, but he did it in a way that wasn't like demoralizing. Like he always had this like insanely high level of belief in me and what I could do. And so it was always with this spirit of like wanting to help me just be better, when we would play. So
your family, I'm coaching Carly Amborn right now, right? And Carly's awesome. And one fun thing about Carly is every game that she plays, it could be a summer league game. Her parents are there, her grandparents are there, her siblings are there. Like it's the Carly Amborn, entourage. That's what I remember about you too. I mean, you've got this really close knit family. Your parents are super supportive. You got Billy, you got Chris, you got Jessica. The McKnight family was so super athletic and super supportive of you. And so that was always really fun. And I loved it when like just seeing you and Billy go at it. I remember those days because there's this great love. Like Billy's competitive as hell. He was a great player in his own right, but it was an interesting balance between, I like how you put it. He didn't demoralize you, but he didn't let you win.
Yeah. And I don't like, he is a special guy. I feel like not many people when they were kind of, he was a junior in high school when I came in as a freshman, and we're at the big like pre-season basketball rally in the gym at Redwood. It's packed. Every student is there.
Yeah.
And they do a 3-point shooting contest between like the men's team and the women's team. And Billy and I are both in it, and I win. And the student body is going absolutely nuts, right? Like most junior boys in high school would not handle that well. And
Right.
He literally walked around, and everybody that like would give him a bad time, like, I can't believe you lost your little sister, da da da. He would just be like, no, she's really good. Like, and it was like, it was never like that. It was anything that he had enough confidence in himself. It was more just like, he was actually like proud of me that I like came through in the clutch and, was able to kind of walk out on that scene as a freshman in front of the whole school and knock down enough shots to beat him, And so I just think like he's a unique guy. I really credit my parents a lot too for how just they raised us with an incredible competitive spirit, but nothing trumped like our ability to love one another and support and be each other's biggest fans as well. And so, we had a lot of practice at that. My mom was an elementary school teacher and was just adamant that we not have television growing up. And I actually think it was really formative to how our family was because of the way we interacted. We played tons of card games, board games. We'd just be outside, shooting hoops, playing till whatever time at night. Cause like TV was never an option, you know. I actually talk about when I saw you guys come up with your Run TMC, it was like, it reminded me, you know, the way Billy and I enjoyed basketball. Like we had to, like we'd come home, and this was like when Tim, Mitch, and Chris were like, you know, Run TMC was in full swing with the Warriors. Like we didn't have a television, like we couldn't see it. And so we would like make tea in the kitchen, and we would sit on my kitchen counter and we would listen to it on the radio. Like that is how we kind of took in basketball all the way, like growing up. But I think we did have a lot of like healthy competitiveness within the family, like, and games and stuff like that. But always, like, I hear so many families, actually, Alex, my first husband, his family, like they talk about like every board game pretty much ended with somebody in tears. Like that just didn't happen in my family. Like we competed like crazy, but at the end of the day, like we loved each other, and we enjoyed the battle without it being like personal, you know? And so I think that kind of was part of how that even transitioned into how Billy was with me on the basketball court.
And you were that kid who, if you're walking down the street in Larkspur, oh, there's Kirsten McKnight dribbling a basketball. You know, I mean, you were the one you always had the basketball in your hands. You were always shooting hoops, and I was the same. You know, you were just a hell of a lot better than I was.
So I actually don't even remember who it was, but somebody talked about like the number of reps, like if you just had a basketball with you everywhere, like the comfortability you'd have with the ball in your hand, the number of reps you would get just dribbling if you dribbled everywhere you walked. Like, I don't remember who that was. I feel like it was someone, I don't know. Duffy, do you know?
Well, no, I don't, but I did a similar thing, dribbling around, mainly in the house, but around the block as well. But a question that went to our last guest as well is, when you were dribbling around, were you alternating the dribbling hands, or were you just going dominant hand?
Oh, really? Yeah, I can't believe that was the other option. The other option actually is where you're going all opposite hand with every once in a while your dominant hand, which would be the correct answer. So, yeah.
So Kirsten, some context. We just interviewed Mike Delosio, who, as you remember, Delosio was a shooter, right? So Delosio would be dribbling around Bolinas, but Duffy was joking around, like, you know, Delosio was all right hand, and all he had to do was catch and shoot. I mean, he did that all the way to play for Bobby Knight at Indiana and professionally in Italy, and is one of the greatest shooters I've ever seen. But no, Duffy, Kirsten could dribble with her left hand, and that is a foreshadowing of a great story that is coming up.
Story to come. But no, that ball went with me everywhere. We went the summer before my brother, I was, I guess, 8th grade. We went on a family vacation down to like New Zealand and Australia to go fly fishing. I dribbled that, like the ball literally went internationally with me wherever we went. The summer in between high school and college, I was planning, I backpacked around Europe for 6 weeks with my best friend Sheila. And I dribbled literally cobblestone streets. That was even better, right? Because the ball, who knows where it's going to go, you know? There was, when I walked to school every day, I walked to Redwood or I walked down to Hall Middle School, there was like a gravel pit I had to go to at the bottom of the stairs. And the gravel pit was always like the best part of the dribble because you don't know where the ball's going to go. It was going to help my ball handling, you know? So yeah, that ball was with me pretty much ever. I actually slept with my basketball. True confessions of a basketball.
I believe you. Yes. Go Duff.
Well, yeah, I've been made fun of by friends, family for a very long time about packing all this sporting equipment whenever we travel, and the basketball is always in there. And I've gotten a lot of grief over the years. But I do have a follow-up question with the dribbling, and this is not looking back in the past, but currently, are you a fan of dribble goggles? Like the little goggles where you can't look down.
I've never had them, but not against them. I think it probably helps people.
I bought them for my entire 7th grade team as an end of year gift, and I don't think a single one of those kids ever used them once. But
it actually probably would have helped them though.
Yeah. All right, let's get to Redwood. So you get to Redwood. You're varsity as a freshman, right?
Yes.
So you're all league, I think all 4 years. Your senior year, you're MVP of the league. I mean, you're all everything. I remember going to your games and loved watching you play. Played for the great Mike Dibley, our buddy Dan Dibley's brother. Now, your Redwood team, you guys were good, but you didn't win the league. Is this correct? Am I remembering this correctly?
I mean, I think you're remembering correctly. I'd like to say we pulled it out one year, but we were, we were good, but not great. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just kind of
Yeah,
were
I
like,
remember.
we were hard workers, Aaron White, myself, like we put in a ton of time. We wanted to get better, but we never got it done.
It was a
with
competitive league.
the MCAL championship. Yeah. I mean, Drake had when I first got in, it was like Michelle Bravelli was at San Rafael. They kind of dominated. And then Drake and Novato were like really good in the years that I was playing. Fulton was actually at TL.
Yeah.
Maybe that was my senior year. I can't remember a lot of that. But, he always had grand plans to shut me down with, multiple people guarding me, even, off the court. And so it was, we never won a championship.
But those were the years, we've talked about this a lot on this podcast through other episodes, where, I mean, Kirsten, you and I would go, Kirsten was in the crew that would go to the pavilion sometimes and work out with Fulton. You did some work with Fulton separately, right? So that was where Mike was coaching Terra Linda, and he'd work out with you and others, even though knowing that you're probably going to use what you're teaching him to come back and kick his ass in the games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much every Saturday we were at the pavilion. Larry was pretty much running more of those, I would say, than Mike, but he was obviously down there, but Larry's kind of leading that. And then on Sundays, I would go to Drake's gym and work with Cap Lavin, actually.
Yep.
And he was really formidable in my shot, just developing my shot, which was great in so many other ways. And of course, we could talk about the dovetail, because you can't talk about Cap Lavin without mentioning the dovetail, right? Yeah.
Of course, the legend, Duffy, yes.
Yeah, interested in how he developed your shot. What was his approach? Was it the traditional start in real close, get the form correct, and then move back, or did he do something different?
No, it was, but I'd kind of my dad had in his head that my shooting pocket needed to be high to be able to get my release off, right? And so I think I had pretty good mechanics, but just my shooting pocket was not going to allow me to have very much range. And so he actually, I would say the drill he did with me that kind of formed my shot more than any other is he had me do one-handed form shooting. I would start right in front of the hoop. And if I'd have to make 3 in a row, I'd take a step and I could take a step back. But if I missed, I had to have to take a step in. And his challenge was for me to go one-handed, be able to work my way back until I was at the NBA 3-point line one-handed and pretty consistently. And so in order to obviously do that, I had to drop my shooting pocket and be able to create more power from my legs. And I think that just repping that was the adjustment he made that made a difference for me.
Yeah, we've talked some on this podcast before with Kevin Vasquez and others about a one motion shot versus a 2 motion shot. It sounds like he helped develop a 1 motion shot that you could do from any distance.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
And Kirsten was just a lights out 3-point shooter. I mean, she had a complete game. She could do everything. She could handle it. She could penetrate, but if you left her open, it was buckets, including Duffy shooting with her left hand. So in high school, Kirsten had a situation where did you heard it playing soccer? Did I remember?
Yeah.
This?
So, I mean, as I mentioned, 7th grade, I have this dream. I'm going to play in the Pac-10. I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen. Of course, no one is recruiting me. I am not athletic. I am not strong. I can't jump. I am slow. I can shoot it, and I have pretty high IQ. But Pac-10 coaches aren't really looking for those. Don't really stand out on the recruiting circuit, so to speak. And the club scene was so different then. It's so crazy. Right. I think about it. I was on a club team that we had, Dave, you're involved with club in the Bay Area. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, are there 100 club basketball teams in the Bay Area between the South Bay, the East Bay, maybe even more, right? Between all the different levels, age groups, whatever. Totally. When I played, there was 1. And so we played, like, we had girls from the South Bay, girls from the East Bay, and I was the only girl from the North Bay on this club team. And it was just really one summer. But what ended up happening is, like, they had enough for 2 teams. And the way they ended up splitting it, I ended up playing the 4 for the club. And that's like, I mean, I'm a 2 guard.
Yeah.
Played 1
Right.
when I needed to. And obviously I was smart enough to play multiple positions and help the team, I guess, in that sense. But yeah, I wasn't recruited by anyone. So here I am going into my senior year of high school. I've got, one school interested in me, and it was Fresno Pacific, because the coach there, Kent Stanley, had come to Lavin camps and knew just how
Of course.
he knew my, like, toughness and work ethic, and was like, I want to coach her just because of how I approach the game. And so he was recruiting me, but I wasn't really interested in going to a small school that wasn't very academic. And so I just was like, okay, there's no option not to. So I'm playing club soccer in the fall. I break my wrist playing goalie. And so I've got a cast on my right hand. And I'm like, okay, well, basketball season's starting. There's just no option not to play. So I guess I'm just going to teach myself how to play left-handed. So I just went in the gym and I started doing the same drill, one-handed form shooting with my left hand, working my way out. And I eventually, and then in practice, I would just, like, wrap my cast in a towel so I could just play left-handed. They wouldn't let me play in games, but once I got the hard cast off and I could have, like, a brace on, then I could play in the game, but just left-handed. And yeah, the IJ ran an article. It was actually, like, towards the end of that year, which was my senior year. And it ran an article on me, and it had this little stat box, which I actually didn't know. And it was like, because the first half of the season I played all left-handed. Then I switched back to my right hand once it was, like, strong enough and I could bend it. And I think I averaged, like, 19 points a game with my left hand and only, like, 17 with my right hand or something like that. And so it was, like, it was pretty funny. I was
ridiculous.
like, really? Like, worse? Maybe I should have just stuck with my left, But actually, like, I mean, you never know, like, how and why, like, what steps lead to an opportunity. But we were actually playing Berkeley High School in a preseason game that senior year. And I'm playing in the game, but I'm still shooting left-handed because my right hand is, like, not strong enough to snap my wrist. And I think I went, like, 9 for 9 from the free throw line, hit a couple of threes. And we ended up losing, but, like, we hung pretty tight with Berkeley High, who had won the state championship the year before. They'd had a girl that went to Stanford. And anyway, the coach over there was, like, just well-known, well-respected. And that ultimately was what got me my, like, break at Oregon, was that the Oregon coach really late in the recruiting process was looking there was a coaching change at Oregon. A couple of players left prior to that becoming normal. It happened. And so they were looking really late for a couple of guards. And so they called the Berkeley High School coach and said, like, hey, we're still looking for guards. Do you know anyone in the Bay Area that's not signed yet? And he said, well, we played this girl in the preseason over at Redwood High. Like, actually, I don't really know how good she is with her right hand, but she had broken her strong hand and played left-handed against us. And just, like, for someone to be determined enough to just do that, and she did great, like, you might want to check into her. And so that's actually what got me my break to get the opportunity that I did at Oregon. So
perfect segue. So Fresno Pacific's looking at you, but I remember you were determined to play D1, like, and you, I mean, nobody worked harder than Kirsten McKnight. The left-hand story is a perfect example. But so as Oregon comes knocking, did you have any other, so like, if Oregon had not happened, what would you have done, do you think? Do you think
actually,
you would have tried to walk on it like Cal?
I had told Kent pretty early on that because of the academics, I was, like, very driven academically. Thought my life ended the day I got rejected from Stanford, but here I am, live to tell the tale, and I'm okay. I turned out okay, Dave.
You're fine.
I'm now married to a guy that went to Stanford, so, I gotta, like, maybe be around it at some point. But anyway, yeah, I had told him that, like, even if, like, that I wasn't going to go to school there. So I was actually Lav had gotten me the opportunity. He was coaching at UCLA at the time and had been talking to the coaches and gave him my film and everything. And so I actually had a position as a walk-on at UCLA as well. And I could have gone there. But their assistant, who was super great, she's like, watch the film. And she reaches out to me after, she watches it and she says, hey, you know what? Like, I actually think like there's like someone with your skill set is needed at our level on teams, even if, you don't fill maybe like some of the other things. But she goes, we literally signed someone last week that's just like you. And so she said, you can still be on the team, but we don't have scholarship. And, kind of knowing that role was kind of filled, I wasn't really sure that they were doing it probably more as a favor to Lav than is like a really like, hey, you would actually have an opportunity to earn time here and to show what you can really do. And so then when Oregon called, I went on a visit up there. It was actually during the Prefontaine track meet, and they run the Twilight Mile where they try to break the mile record, like the true mile record every year at that. They bring guys from all over the world. And I'm like up in the Bowerman building with Bill Bowerman and watching like this entire like town go crazy over track and field. And I just thought, wow, what a cool sports town. Like this, it could be really cool to be an athlete here. And I knew that I would at least have an opportunity to earn time, or at least to prove I belong at that level. And that's really all I felt like I needed because of my work ethic you talked about, because of my IQ, because of just, and honestly, none of those are, I don't think, my strongest thing. I think like my biggest strength on the team at Oregon was how I was as a leader and how I could bring people together towards a common goal and a common cause. And so I just felt like I needed an opportunity and that I could show that I was valuable and could help a team win and be good. So that's why I ultimately chose Oregon over the opportunity that I had to walk on at UCLA.
That's awesome. And then you walk on at Oregon. We've had some great, one of my favorite recurring themes of this podcast is people's walk-on stories. Delosio's is kind of next level. Yeah. But, Alex Pribble had a great one at Cal. David Liss walked on at Cal. Dave Deneen, walked on at Cal Poly. So give us so you get to campus, give us your walk-on story. What was it like? Was it a gym full of walk-ons? Were you one of the only ones? Like, walk us through how that worked.
Well, I mean, I knew I was a recruiter walk-on, so I knew I was on the team. So it wasn't like worried about making the team. It was more just like, how do I fit in with a team when, I'm not highly recruited like the other people, or I don't, and I didn't really know them. We didn't do anything in the summer to like kind of connect us or whatever. I knew a couple of them from our visit, but that's, very short period of time. So I remember moving into the dorms, and my mom and Rochelle Dibley actually dropped me off at college, as we talk about Mike Dibley, but Rochelle too was just an incredible influence in my life. She dropped me off, my mom, my aunt, and her and my sister. It was a girls' road trip, but I remember them dropping me off and driving away. And of course, like no cell phones or anything. I remember sitting on the end of my bed and watching them drive from outside like my window. And I'm just like, wow, I am alone in Oregon and I don't know anybody. Like, I've got to make this happen, like I got to make this happen. And so as we had been unloading the car, one of the girls on the team had driven by on her bike, rode by, and she stopped. She says, aren't you like going to be on our team? And her name is Betty Ann Boving. She actually is still like the voice of Stanford women's basketball. She announces at all of the games. She had been from the Bay Area and stuff, and she'd remembered me from my visit. And so I said, yeah. She said, hey, we're going to play open gym later at Mac Court if you want to come. And so I'm like, oh, yes, of course. Right. So I went, and that gave me just like that first day invite to like go to just play open gym. I laugh now. There's a gal that she's the head coach at Willamette University up in Oregon. Her name's Peg Swadner. And she had just graduated. So I didn't get to play with her, but she just graduated and she was back playing open gym. And where I'm out there playing, of course, it's like my first time with the team, and to try to like, you want to like set a good.
Show what you got. Sure.
Not just show what you got, but also like just show that you belong. I'm like this, and to fit in and to whatever, like know that you're going to be a good teammate and work hard. And So I'm like, she's a 2 guard. So I end up guarding her in open gym, and she, comes down and she gives me like a pump fake. This is going to be reminiscent of a story, Dave. You'll remember when there was a lot of blood involved and maybe some lost teeth.
Remember.
But yeah, she just nails me with her elbow in my chin, and I just start bleeding everywhere. And I'm like, okay, whatever you do not cry. Like, you are not that, like, you are tough. You are, so I'm just like, okay, just breathe. I walk out. We're like in between games. I don't remember, go to the water fountain. And I'm just like spitting blood into the water fountain and trying to, like drink some water, clear my. And I remember her coming up. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, yes, I'm okay. So we laugh about it now, about how I was like, "It's not a problem. I'm fine." What, like your first day, you're not gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I got to sit out because my, mouth is all bloody and I got, nailed." But it was definitely like, welcome to the Pac-10. This is the big time. It was definitely one of those feels. So.
A good example of Kirsten McKnight's toughness. Yeah, tough.
As a physician and as someone who's had tooth knocked out twice playing basketball, I have to ask you, were you wearing a mouth guard at this time? And did it change your approach to mouth guards afterwards?
I was not wearing a mouth guard. We ended up getting mouth guards at Oregon. I wore a mouth guard most of my career at Oregon, and mouth guards have come so far. And so I'm a big proponent of it if people can. I don't mandate it for my players because it is really hard to talk and communicate the way that I think we try to. So there was a while I worked with an orthodontist here in town that like comped our players to go get the, custom ones and stuff. And so that was that I think they're great. And more so for saving teeth. I mean, all these root canals and stuff like that, just from the teeth, like trying to save my teeth, but less about that. I mean, obviously, yeah, as you get older, you wish your teeth weren't kind of as damaged as they are from sports, but more for the concussion's sake now. I think the mouth guards have a lot of reason to wear them for sure.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they absorb the impact or help absorb the impact. Yes, huge fan as well. Other than the fact, and we'll tell the story offline, Dave, about me having a mouth guard probably lost us an over 35 championship last year. Because at that point, I was take the mouth guard out of my mouth to be able to yell some instruction to a teammate, and then unexpected, the ball comes flying at me, and I don't have an extra hand to catch it.
The communication is the biggest challenge with that for sure.
Yeah, between that and
the
Steph
lost
Curry
the championship too.
Yeah, that's all right. Kirsten, look who's playing. Look, it's the two of us. There's also the Steph Curry throwing the mouth guard.
I know, that's the one that comes to mind.
There's
too.
that risk.
Sure.
Different kind of communication. Okay, Kirsten McKnight, you walk on at Oregon. You earn yourself a scholarship. You play for 4 years. You're the team captain your senior year. I remember, well, first of all, I was on the bench on the other side a couple times against you guys when I was helping out at the Stanford team. Just super proud of seeing you play. Talk about being a team captain. What does that mean to you? And this is sort of a segue into your coaching too. How do you view the team captain role as a coach?
Yeah, so like quick basketball recap of college as I go there, obviously as a walk-on. I've got someone in my same position that's on full scholarship and a number of girls, but I end up being kind of the only freshman that ends up like getting any playing time that year. And we ended up having one of our seniors had to have, unfortunately, surgery on her hand in my position. And so I ended up being like first guard off the bench as a freshman. And then as a sophomore, actually started like a number of games. I wasn't consistently a starter. I started more in the preseason, ended up starting not as much later on, but had like a pretty, a substantial role as a contributor on the team. And then, another summer of work and you're thinking like, okay, upperclassmen, junior year, it's going to be like I'm like ready to like step into that and have like a real big on-court role. And the week before our first exhibition game. So a week before the season opens up, I'm like, wake up one morning and I'm like, just have this ridiculous cramp in my stomach. And I'm just like, what's wrong? I have a test. So I like literally like walk to my test, like bent over like this, like I can't even stand up, but I'm just like, I got to take my test. So I take my test. I'm like, something's really wrong. Like I can't even stand up. And so I go to the trainer to see, and she was like, oh my God, you got to go to the doctor like right now. So I go to the doctor. Long story short, he does this like the rebound test on me, which try to see if you have appendix issues. And he's like, oh my gosh, you got to go in for surgery right now. So they get me to the hospital. I basically go in for emergency surgery. My appendix is red hot. It's about to burst. I'm about to have like massive like complications from it, yada, yada. Caught it in time, but end up on the verge of here junior year now. And I'm like lying in a hospital bed. And the week before, all I could think about was like trying to earn a starting role and win a Pac-10 championship. Like that seemed so important to me. And then all of a sudden that was taken away and it had no, it was completely out of my control and I couldn't do anything about it. And so that year was the most trying year of my journey, I would say, like as a player for sure. But what I learned that year, like I wouldn't trade for anything, to be honest. Like it's completely shaped and formed like who I am and why I do what I do. And I really started to, first of all, it made me kind of come to the end of myself in the sense that like how fleeting it would be to have just a goal that is like so self-oriented of like, oh, I'm going to earn this and prove this. And part of that I think came from the fact that like growing up, I was always the one that like nobody really recruited me. Like one coach, that was it. And it was at, the NAI level and like nobody else saw it, not mid-majors, and so it was like, there was this big part of me that just wanted to like prove I was good enough, but just had to come to this place of like, reorienting like what I actually loved about the game. And I think what I started to see was that like my biggest gifts were actually beyond what could happen as far as playing time or points that were scored. And that was like just I think like my ability to work towards something and how that could influence and impact other people with my work ethic and how that could be contagious to others. But then also this passion I had that like started to grow more for like the opportunity that sports gives you to actually just have a positive impact on people and to influence people for the better. And so there was actually that year, there was a freshman that had come in my same position, and I was out for like months. And so she was in playing and she did great. And I get back and I'm fully healthy and I'm not getting put in the game until we're up 30. I remember we were up on Cal at home by over 30 and I still only played 30 seconds. And I'm like on this verge of tears, like, how does she not even trust me enough to put me in for 2 minutes? Like literally 30 seconds, like, okay, And so I really, I go down in the locker room after that game and I am like, I'm going to cry, but we just won by 30. You cannot cry in the locker room when you just won by 30, right? Like that's the most selfish thing, but that's honestly like where my heart was, because how much I'd put into this dream that I had of making happen. And now here I am, like, and that girl's locker was next to mine in the corner of the locker room. And she came up to me and I was just like, coach finished talking and I'm like, go grab your stuff and get out of here as fast as you can so that, nobody sees that you're about to like break down crying. And that same girl comes up to me and she says, Kirsten, how do you do it? And I said, well, what do you mean? How do I do what? It's like, I could try not to talk because if I talk, I'm going to cry. Right. And she says, well, you work harder than me every day in practice. And now that you're healthy, like you're playing better than me, but I still play in front of you. And yet you still cheer for me. She's like, how do you still cheer for me? And like, I was like, wow, I still was like, that almost like made me cry in and of itself, but it made me realize like the power I had to impact and influence others, and how meaningful that was to me to hear that, like, A, she recognized it, and B, it made a difference for her because it gave her confidence on the court that she had this upperclassman that was still all in on wanting her to be great, even if it was at my own expense, if that makes sense. And so I started to catch this glimpse of like actually how rewarding it is to not just have the success yourself, but to have somebody else succeed and to be a part of somebody else's success. And so I think that really, like, from that day, honestly, like my goals and my perspective on all of that really shifted to seeing this, like, I guess, skill, gift, or even, and passion, maybe, where all those things came together, of actually making other people better. And that it really wasn't about me. And so that, I think, started my, I would say, like, really started shifting my role on the team to being that of a leader, where then I was voted as a captain and respected in that way. And ultimately is what has continued to lead me into coaching, because that's what I get to do every day, right? Is help people be better and help them maximize their gifts and talents and believe in themselves in different ways and things like that. And so I think that was like this crux point in my career where it stopped becoming about me and started becoming about how I can make people around me better. And then having that realization of how fulfilling that is. And it's actually way more fulfilling than you just going and accomplishing something yourself. So.
Great story. Go ahead, Duff.
Yeah, kudos to you, but also to your teammate for that moment of grace and honesty, right? I mean, that's not something that very many people would do in that situation, I don't think. So that is, and it obviously had a meaningful long-term impact. And with this, I'm going to let you both know that the ER has paged me. There's an outbreak of appendicitis in the ER, and I'm going to have to step away. But I do look forward to hearing the rest of this interview and then commenting on it. All right. Thank you so much.
Bye, Duff.
Bye.
We'll pick it back up. So that's a good, wanted to get into your coaching, right? So you graduate from Oregon and you go right into being a grad assistant, right? At Oregon. They ask you to stick around and coach. Discuss that.
Yeah, not even a grad assistant like that. We didn't have that position. So
really?
we had one of our
assistant.
Yeah, we had one of our full-time assistants leave. She was going to go back and play professionally in Australia. And she had thought she was done. Like, she had played pro for a while, came back, coached a little bit, and then was just like, I miss it still. I think I'm not done. So she went back to play. So we needed another assistant coach. And actually my head coach calls me in, like, we're having kind of like the after spring break. We had just lost to Rutgers in the round of 32 to try to go to the Sweet 16, in an absolutely heartbreaking game where we gave up an O board and 3 at the buzzer to lose. Yeah, when we were about to beat them. And that was like Vivian Stringer, like they were good. Yeah. And
Rutgers was good.
We had them until we didn't. But that's how my career ended. Go home, try to regroup, and she calls me in for what I think is going to be kind of like senior exit interview, normal type thing. And she says, hey, she said, Sarah's going to go play pro and I need another coach. And I'm wondering if you'd be interested in coaching. And I was like, what? They was unexpected. So my head was kind of spinning a little bit. I was actually planning on doing a 5th year there. It's a long story. We don't have to take our time going through. But anyway, with the way that when I got offered a scholarship and stuff like that, like, they were going to pay for a 5th year. And so I was doing a double major in like pre-med and business. And then but then she asked if I wanted to start coaching, which then meant I had to at least graduate with one of them. So I ended up finishing my business degree. But I think one thing I didn't realize, which was really exciting to me once I kind of got into my educational journey at Oregon, was that they have a sports marketing and sports business now center, their program that's incredible, like one of only 2 undergraduate programs in the country. Ohio State had one and we had one at Oregon. And so I actually ended up being able to do that and thought, that I was probably going to go pursue like sports business.
Yeah.
But when she asked, I think, and she said, I think that she recognized the role that I played as a leader and kind of holding things together as a captain. And I think that that was something she valued and wanted on her coaching staff. And so I said yes with the, I didn't think I was going to be a career coach. I didn't think that's what I was going to be doing the rest of my life. But I thought, okay, if I'll coach full time, but will you be okay with me doing my MBA on the side? And, with the sports business program. And she said, yeah, as long as you get your stuff done. And so I didn't sleep a lot for those next 3 years. I stretched out program over a couple of years. And I thought that's probably the direction I would go, but it did give me kind of my first taste of coaching. And I was, as part of that MBA program, able to I put a proposal forward to study, to do one course that was just independent study on coaching styles. And so I actually read books on from, whether it's Coach K and Pat Summitt and obviously John Wooden, all these things. And it was it was kind of, as part of that process, I had to write a mission statement for myself of why I coach. And I kind of came up with I am in this business because I do think obviously coaching is a profession. It's a business more than ever at the Division I level now, but because it gives me relationships with people. It gives me a platform to have relationships with people that go deep enough to have a positive impact on people's lives. And that became kind of my why of what I do, and continues to stay my why now. After coaching there for 3 years, we had a coaching change, and I actually had an opportunity to stay with the new coach that was coming in, but at the same time had kind of explored other options. And the recruiting coordinator position was open at Cal with former Marin great Karen Horsemeyer. That's right. And so despite, the fact that I broke her scoring records at Oregon, she still hired me. So that was, or at Oregon, sorry, at Redwood.
Right.
Yeah, at Redwood. She still hired me. And it was a really great 4 years that I spent with her at Cal. And yeah, I don't know how much. Stop me here if you want me to expand on anything, or I could go quickly to kind of how I ended up at Westmont. But
I just real quick on, so 8 years coaching in the Pac-10, but as an assistant coach. And so as you look back on it now, having spent 20 plus years as a head coach, how did you like being an assistant coach? And did you know at the time that now that you've you're in it a couple years in, did you have designs on being a head coach, or would you have been happy to just be an assistant coach at a high level like that for your career?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I know that people, and you'd go to the Final Four and the coaches conventions and everything, and you'd hear about how to kind of climb the ladder, and people that just knew hey, I'm going to be a head coach. And it's not that I didn't think I could do that one day, but I just I feel my philosophy and what I actually give a lot of people advice now to people in the profession is just be your best where your feet are planted, and other opportunities will open up, but fully invest yourself where you're at and being the best you can. And I feel I did that at Oregon as assistant. I feel I did that at Cal. To be honest, Karen was incredible in the sense that she actually thought about it more than I did. She's okay, you're going to leave here being ready to be a head coach. We should be strategically thinking about what are areas you need, to get experience doing, what are things, on court coaching, whether it's, recruiting, scouting, whatever it was, she, I think actually thought about it more than I did. And I was well, I just want to be here and help these young women be the best they could be, help us be better than we are right now. And I was really committed to that. We actually, in my first week coaching at Cal, there was this group of 8th graders over in the East Bay, went into downtown Oakland and met with them. And that ended up being the class that we recruited and signed, that with multiple McDonald's All-Americans. That was Devin A. Hampton and Alexis Gray Lawson and Courtney and Ashley Paris, and met with them as 8th graders and gave them a vision for what it would look like to stay home and win a championship at Cal and bring Cal to national prominence for women's basketball, which was something they could be on the forefront of if they wanted to. And so I kind of painted this vision for them. And then for 4 years, they were 8th graders, so they weren't recruitable student athletes. Once they became freshmen, we had to do a lot more of getting them on campus for unofficial visits and things like that as we developed those relationships. I still have I had folders and folders of proof of every the instant message, AOL instant messengers with Paris twins was 3 with all the documentation to make sure we're above board on all the recruiting rules, because we knew that everything was going to be, everyone was going to be watching our every move. Right. Yeah. And anyway, we ended up signing, the majority of those kids. Honestly, if the Paris twins knew that our staff would still be there, I believe we also would have gotten them, but we had a new AD and she wanted to bring in her own staff. And so we didn't get the chance to coach those girls after we signed them. They did go to the Final Four though. And I cheered them through every step of the way. So did Karen Horsemeyer, even after being let go. Talk about character. This woman bought season tickets and sat on the floor after being fired by that, school, and still supported those girls all the way through. If you need to know anything about Karen Horsemeyer, right there should tell you everything. She's incredible. So
she's incredible. Anyway, she was a guest on the pod. We love Karen.
Nice.
She was a sponsor in season 1 as well.
Yeah.
Karen's amazing. But we talked about the Paris twins. She's still frustrated that you guys didn't land them, but that's all right. Okay.
It is all right.
So you leave lovely Berkeley, you head south to this ugly place in Santa Barbara. I know it's not picturesque down there. Yeah. Being facetious, Westmont's absolutely gorgeous school. So discuss making the move to Westmont, being a head coach.
Yeah. I think as I worked at Oregon, worked at Cal, I think I had, I was definitely keeping an eye on could I do this at this level and be as present of a mom as I would want to be at some point in my life? Because I did want to have a family and kids. And there's people that do it. Karen did it.
Yeah.
But I think that the sacrifice of time and not being able to be as involved with your kids is legitimate and real. And it wasn't necessarily something I had preemptively in my head said, oh, I don't want to do that, or I couldn't do that. But I think I had always thought, what would it be like to go to a small college where, you're not traveling as much, being the main thing, right? I think that the majority of most everything else that I do at Westmont, I think we work just as hard as Division I teams. I have high expectations of my players. There's and in some ways, there's a lot less with less resources. It means I'm doing a lot more than I would if I had a full staff of assistant coaches and things like that. My first year, I had a part-time assistant coach that I did every single scouting report. I did every single, he had another full-time job, And so in a lot of ways, wasn't necessarily that it was less work, but it was just less time away, and wanted to just kind of see what that looked like. Now, at the time, I wasn't dating anybody. I wasn't, in a relationship, and didn't think, but ended up meeting a professor here who was very interested in me and pursuing me in a relationship with me, which I wasn't into at all. I was like, let's just be friends, and that's great. But long story long, we ended up eventually getting married after being best friends for a while. And it's just ended up being a place and a level here that has worked for a number of reasons for me. And so, I kind of had an inkling of maybe I would be interested in that. But another Marin connection is how I ended up at Westmont, really, is I was getting pursued when we got let go at Cal. I was looking at other Division I opportunities, had some good ones that I could have taken, but kind of also was at least curious about looking at, a small college where what that might be like, because I'd only been, in one kind of scenario. And so I started getting pursued. Actually, it's ironic where how many times is Fresno Pacific going to play a role in my story? But they actually were the first school that started. They heard about me. They were asking around for assistant coaches that would be good head coaches. And so they started pursuing me, to which I told them I'm really honored, thanks, but not really interested. And they said, well, hey, just come interview and just use it as experience. So now I think, okay, well, I'll just go use it as like head coaching, interviewing experience. And as I'm on my way down there, I think, well, I better at least figure out something about this school so I can, if I'm going to go, I might as well do a good job. So I'm like, go on and start looking up information about their university because I'm going to meet with the president. I'm getting interviewed by all these people. Like, so I do all that. I get some prep that I can study as I'm driving down in the car. And then I'm like, okay, let me just go check the NCAA job board one more time. And so I go to the NCAA job board. There's one new posting and it's head coach at Westmont College, which as I researched Fresno and started to look at who was in their league, I was like, oh, they're in the GSAC, Golden State Athletic Conference. Who are the other teams?
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, Westmont. And then it says like at the bottom, like, if you're interested, contact John Moore. Well, John Moore, I knew from Lavin camps because he was interested in Rachel Lavin. This is even before they were married. They ended up getting married. Yep. So I know Rachel Lavin's down here at Westmont with John. So I pick up the phone, said, John, and he's like, I said, it's Kirsten McKnight from, Marin and Oregon. He's like, what? Kirsten, what are you doing? And I said, well, actually, I'm getting in the car to go interview at Fresno. And he says, you cannot say yes to them before you at least come visit us. And so they actually didn't even have a search committee together yet or whatever, but he's like, come on over. So I stayed. He's like, just come stay with me and Rachel for a night. We'll show you around. We'll give you like kind of the scene, talk to you about it a little bit. And so that's kind of how that connection got me to at least try and check out Westmont in the first place. Yeah.
Amazing. John Moore, great coach, great guy. And I love the Lavin. It always comes back to Lavin camps, right?
Everything, right?
Everything does. So 20 years at Westmont, 400-ish wins. How many wins? 400 something?
I just had to go. I just looked over at this plaque because I'm like, I think they just gave me something this year. Yes, over 400 wins as a head coach at Westmont. Yeah.
2 national titles.
2 national titles. Couple other Final Fours. We lost in the national championship game one year.
I'm sure you remember the losses.
We did finish number 1 in the country a third time. And that was the year COVID. It was the only year we were going into the national tournament ranked as the number 1 seed. And then the tournament got canceled. So,
and you have been national coach of the year twice in the NAIA. Just an incredible career. I mean, if you go to the Westmont, if you guys, everybody Google Kirsten Moore Westmont and go look at her career record there. I mean, it's winning season, 20 wins. Just, and you think about as a college coach doing that, you got to recruit new kids. I mean, nowadays you got to recruit new kids even more frequently than you did before because of the transfer portal. Just an unbelievable accomplishment. I'm so proud of you. I could talk to you about coaching for about 5 hours, but I do want to get to, you started talking about your husband, Alex. I want you to tell this story. It's not a fun story, but I think it's obviously very meaningful and a big part of who you are. So tell the story of Alex, Kirsten.
Yeah. I mean, if people are interested, because I'm obviously, because of time, going to have to keep this pretty short, but Bill Platschke down with LA Times wrote pretty remarkable article actually called Overcoming Grief or Outplaying Grief. And he did a great job of just capturing the spirit of the story. But as I mentioned, Alex was pursuing me for quite some time. I put him squarely in the friend zone for quite some time as well. But he eventually broke me down and I realized like, you really are supposed to marry your best friend, right? And so anyway, things changed, was grateful that was the case. He actually was incredibly smart and was teaching at Westmont, but needed to go back and get his PhD and was able to get into the leading like exercise physiology. He was studying biomedical sciences program actually at the University of Missouri, which sounds weird, but it was all these Ivy League professors that all left different Ivy League schools to go to Missouri to do collaborative research on different parts of what they were studying together. So he was with incredible professors. So we ended up doing long distance for 4 years, one of which we were dating, one of which we were engaged, 2 of which we were married, and actually staying, and with the intention that he could be like, we saw Westmont as a place we could be long-term and raise a family. And so he finally finished his PhD program, came out to Westmont. He was here, got a tenure track position to teach, and I got pregnant. We were excited. Everything is going according to plan. He was quite an athlete himself. He was actually a track cross country runner in college and then was a competitive cyclist on the U.S. developmental cycling team. And so he kind of started noticing like some issues like with his digestive tract and ended up getting diagnosed with Crohn's disease right before our wedding, actually. So kind of midway of him being gone, and we had him with great doctors and he was in pretty good situation, but it really kind of continued to take a toll on his body in different times. And it's an autoimmune disease. So there's times where it like was fine and other times it would flare up and then it'd get worse again, whatever. But so I'm pregnant and we're like kind of going back and forth on medication situation and what to do. But we finally just came to the conclusion like his colon was so diseased that we just needed to get rid of it completely. So we got connected to really the best doctor. I'm grateful we were with the best doctor because otherwise I think I could have a lot of just like doubts or you second guess yourself on steps you take. But I feel like we did all the right steps. He went down, he had surgery to remove his colon down at Cedars-Sinai in LA. I was staying with Corey Close, actually UCLA coach up in Bel Air at the time because I was so pregnant. So he came out of surgery great. Everything was fine. In fact, the surgeon said the surgery could not have gone better. They got everything like hooked back up and we were pretty stoked. So I spent the day in the hospital with him, but he was going to have to stay there a couple of days because of the just severity of the surgery. But he was like, you need to go home because I was really pregnant, like 7 months, like out to here. I wasn't going to like, want me sitting in a chair all night or whatever. So I went back to sleep at Corey's. And then, in the middle of the night, my phone just started lighting up and I'm like kind of out of it because I'm sleeping. I'd set my alarm to wake up really early anyway to get there for rounds. But then I kind of like happened enough where I looked at my phone and I had all these missed calls that I'd kind of slept through because my phone had been on silent. And I had 2 missed messages. And so I listened to the first message. They were all from like unknown number. And the first message was the doctor said, "Hey, Kirsten, this is Dr. Fleshman." How about the fact his name was Fleshman? But anyway, I need you to call me right now. Your husband's actually like in serious trouble. He's actually coding right now, but I just need you to call me as soon as possible. And so then he just like hangs up and they're in this like code red situation. And then the next, like listening to the next message now, and it just says, it's him again. He said, "Kirsten, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I'm making this call, but your husband didn't make it." And the way I describe it, like all I can kind of explain is it just felt like darkness just went like, whoo, like just closed in on me. And grateful that Corey was there with me and her assistant coaches actually rented rooms in her house, and they came over and just started praying with me and just trying to help me keep breathing when you get a phone call like that at 4 a.m. And he had a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot from the surgery had gone to his lungs, and he died like super quickly. And in an instant, like all the things you have planned, right? Like that you have this image of what your family's going to be like and your life is going to be like and all of that. All of a sudden I'm a widow and I'm about to be a single mom. And it was really intense.
So this happens and, 2 months later, you give birth to your beautiful daughter. And now, how do you make the decision to coach and stay with it? And like, how do you discuss we've talked to you I've known you for 30 years. We've talked to you for an hour over, and we've had multiple examples of your toughness, right? Whether it's physical toughness, mental toughness, nothing is like this. Mm-hmm. Discuss how you decide to come back and coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, initially all you're trying to do is honestly survive, just like breathe and keep breathing enough for the baby to get enough oxygen to also stay alive. And all I can say is that, like, I think what was incredible is that when I chose Westmont over a lot of the other places, one thing that I sensed and continued to hear from people was just what incredible community of people it was. Like, yes, we have a great academic program here. We're in beautiful Santa Barbara, but everyone say by far the best thing is the people and the community and the way people care for one another. And I think that in my time here, I had built really strong just relationships with people. And kind of over time from my time at Oregon and throughout, and I haven't talked a lot about this, but like really also developed a personal faith. And I think, I look at those two things as what really sustained me and kept me positive in kind of pressing forward and continued to give me hope and support. The community came around me like you wouldn't even believe. I mean, just everyone doing I'd like my friend group here from church, they basically got together and said, look, like she's not even going to know what she needs. So our goal is going to be to do everything she needs before she has to ask. They also know that I probably wasn't like, it's not my nature to like be needy or ask for help or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just pull up my bootstraps and do it. And here I am at a time in my life. And maybe you can like think back to that moment after my appendix in the hospital where it was really, truly something outside of my control that like my work ethic couldn't overcome. Honestly, this was a situation that my work ethic was needed, but it also wasn't going to be enough. Like I couldn't do it all by myself and I had to let other people help me. And so I had my AD's wife, our men's soccer coach's wife, they traded off day shifts. I had because I have no blood family in town, right? Like then I have, we have a political science professor who actually played football at Stanford, he and his wife. And then my really good friends from church, they switched off night shifts and they just like, I call them Alexis's sometime moms, the four women that like, I mean, it really was like the village coming around. And at the same time, I'm like, okay, I like, as people say, like, how did you decide to coach? It honestly, like never even crossed my mind that I wouldn't like, cause it's not what I do. It's who I am. Like that, like coaching, so I like impacting young people, like is who I am. And what, like, to me, I'm like, well, what good is that if in the hard you're not in it with them, like or you don't let them into that too, And so I think as uncomfortable as it was for me, 2 months after Alexis is born, when the team comes back for the first week of school, I met with them and I just said, look, like I don't know how this is going to look and I don't know how I'm going to do it. Like I don't have the answers. All I can tell you is I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be real. I'm going to show up with everything I have every day, even if what that isn't what it used to be. And I'm going to give you what I have and I'm going to love you guys. And they loved me back. And I think that was like the incredible part of the story is that the team rallied around me and Alexis. The community rallied around me and Alexis. We actually were not supposed to be very good at basketball that year. I'm going to try to make this story quick from here, but we had gone to the Elite Eight for the first time the year before. Like that was the deepest we'd ever gone. And we were losing 80% of our scoring and our rebounding from that team, like had graduated. We were pretty much like, we had a number of walk-ons and then we had one really insanely good player who had played that summer, like right after Alex died. She was playing it was summer 2012. The London Olympics were happening and she was on the Turkish Olympic team. And she got offered hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracts to stay and play professionally in Turkey and to not come back after the Olympics. And she called me and she said, Coach, I'm coming back. I'm coming back for you. I'm coming back for Alex. And I'm going to get my degree like I said I would. And so she chose to come back. Obviously, you can hear me getting emotional because so many people like sacrificed out of love for me. And so she's just one example, but she came back and then with a bunch of people who we were supposed to be very average that year, we ended up winning the national championship and it was just insane. Like we played a tournament in December at home. I had known, like, I thought, hey, we're at this point where we're getting to the Elite Eight. Like, we got to play the best to be the best. And so I had scheduled Oklahoma City, who had just won the national championship the year before, to come out and play in our tournament over Christmas, along with Westminster, who was like always ranked in the top 10. They're from Utah. So I have them come out and I'm like, all right, let's this is what we got to see and what we got to play against in order to make that happen. Well, we lost on our home court by 30 points to Oklahoma City. And then the next night we had to play and we lost by 32 to Westminster back to back. And the team got together and it was just like, and Tuch, who didn't say a lot, this is my Turkish girl. She didn't say a lot because of the language barrier. She said, I came back and we're going to do this for coach. And then the whole team did said, we're in. And we ended up going on a 17-game winning streak, went undefeated in league after that, obviously made some changes that we need to make, and they responded. We ended up losing our conference championship game. They come into the locker room afterwards. Of course, they're devastated in the tournament, because we won the regular season outright, had beat this team twice, and now we lose to them in the tournament championship. Come in the locker room, and they're super bummed. I'm like, you guys, it's okay. Last time we lost, we learned from it. We went all in and we won 17 games in a row. Now, if we do that, we just lost. If we learn from it and we take that into now, all we got to win is 5 and we win a national championship. And I said it kind of jokingly because honestly, that wasn't what you're thinking. But we went there. We actually ended up, the first game, every game was there was only one game we won by double digits. I think it was 10. And that was against the undefeated number 1 ranked team in the country. So we beat them by the most, and that was in the Final Four. But leading up to that, we're winning by 1 possession, 2 possessions, every game. And our girls are just just willing it to happen. Well, we end up getting to the Elite 8. And who are we playing? Westminster, who had just played us in December and beat us by 32 points on our home court. And we're like, all right. We ended up beating them in the lowest scoring game in NAIA national tournament history. You would think that it was just ugly because of that. And it wasn't ugly. It was because both teams' defenses were so determined to nobody could get an open look. We knew each other so well. We'd played each other before, scouted, whatever. It just was, but we end up winning. And it was kind of after that game that I just felt like something bigger is happening here. We have to then go into the Final Four, play the undefeated number 1 team that was supposed to win it, Freed Hardeman. That was the only game we won by double digits. And then we go to the national championship game. And Platschke talks about this moment in the locker room before the game. You'd think I'd give some crazy pep talk. And I just told my team thanks. We'd already won, how we responded, how we'd come together, what we'd experienced. I was like, you guys, we already have the victory. We showed what the human spirit is literally capable of, and no, my team is we're all bawling together, in an amazing moment. But before the national championship game, we can't pull ourselves together. And it was okay. We go out there and girls are trying to clear their eyes, okay, how are we going to play? And I say to my assistant, I'm like, I think I just lost us the national championship. And she looks at me and she says, no. She goes, you see the look in Tuch's eyes? She's like, there's no way she's going to let us lose. And sure enough, down the stretch, she made some insane plays. We had girls step up and just play out of their minds and won the national championship. So pretty wild.
They're
gonna make you.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Was there a tear shed over there, Dave, or what?
There have been many. I'm not. I don't know. I have so many things I want to say, but you get out of life what you put in, right? And go back to what I talked about at the beginning of this when I was introducing you about amazing player, amazing coach, amazing story, but really you sum it all up, you're just an incredible human. And people respond to the energy that you put into everything that you do. I can say someone as your friend, that's how it is. And I can imagine, I can't imagine somebody I would rather have coaching my daughters than you. So I don't know how you ever lose recruits when you're talking to them. So thank you for sharing your story. It's devastating that it happened, but I know it's made you who you are. It's
really
happen.
A story of just that extraordinary love can accomplish extraordinary things. And it's honestly when you hear me tell the story, which, obviously told a little bit more than I do usually. So the emotions are still raw, but like my emotions come out of just sheer, it's from a place of so much gratitude, like gratitude for the people around me and the way this community loved me and Alexis, the way people have, the next 10 years, it didn't change. Like literally like single mommed Alexis for 10 years. And the ways that this community like have surrounded and poured into her. I mean, she just feels like the most loved child on the planet. Like she doesn't even, people are like, oh, you could look at her story and think like, oh, that's so sad. And like, she just like doesn't, she's just like got the biggest family you can imagine because of all these people who are family to her, you know? And so I don't know, just incredible gratitude. I do think that like it is reciprocated in the sense that like I love my players big and that's why I do what I do. It's funny because as though I grew up with my first word as ball and it started as this passion for the game, it's so morphed into just this passion for people and impacting people. Basketball is just the vehicle I get to do it in. And but the others just way outweigh that, you know?
Thank you for your story, Kier.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. I know you gotta run. It's amazing to see you. Thanks for wearing the RUN TMC.
Yes,
hoodie.
represent.
Appreciate you.
And we have an AD at the field too, right now?
Yes, that's right.
Awesome.
We do. Okay, we usually end in crunch time. I'm going to do a 1 question crunch time. You ready?
Only a 1 question? Come on, throw them at me.
Okay. All right, well, then we'll do it. Okay, toughest player you ever played against in Marin?
Melissa King.
Oh, Tara Linda.
Yeah,
she's tough.
You got to
Santa
get her
Clara.
on if she's not. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we talked about her with Karen.
It's relentless.
Okay, favorite gym in Marin? I think I know the answer to this one.
I mean, Redwood's got to be. Pavilion is a close second just from the memories of the grind that happened in that gym, but
you got to love the Pavilion. Okay,
Pavilion
favorite gym?
Like a court? Is it still a court? Can you still go work out there?
Yeah. No, I played pickup there last year. Yeah, it's still there.
Next time I'm coming, we're bringing my daughter and your daughters, and we're gonna go have a little sesh.
Shoot some hoops. Just bring a hoodie. It's cold in there.
Yeah, I got this one. RUN TMC.
There you go. Favorite gym anywhere, like that you've ever played in, coached in?
The old pit, Matt Court at Oregon. Before they moved into the fancy new place,
the fancy Phil Knight place. Okay, up 3 with 6 seconds left. Are you fouling?
Depends on how good a rebounding team we are, but I would say usually no.
Okay.
That might buck the trend, but
okay. That's we're making news here. Who wins a game of
we usually average about 5'5" in height, so that could have something to do with it.
Okay, that's a factor for sure. Who wins a game of McKnight Family Horse?
Pure shooting, me. If like it's up for grabs with fancy like trick shots, definitely Billy.
Okay. I'm going to bring you back now. Favorite Marin restaurant?
Oh, shoot. I mean, I would say it was Chevy's. The chips and salsa and the tortilla maker was pretty legit.
So so kids, that's where picture Gott's. Way back in the day, it's now Gott's. Kirsten, it's a fancy, overpriced, but lovely, wonderful, but expensive burgers. Gott's, please sponsor us. It used to be a Chevy's, and it was the place to be. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Loved Chevy's.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, awesome. So to close the loop, after that amazing story, Kirsten is married.
Yeah.
To a Stanford guy. I mean, you can't find a better thing than Stanford guy. And I love you, Kirsten. I root for you. Thank you for your time. Keep winning games.
Yeah, we're going to keep it going. We got a new challenge ahead of us, new league, D2. It's exciting. We're on the verge of being pretty good. We just got back from Africa. We went on a missions trip, played the Ugandan national team, and did some humanitarian aid work over there. And my team's ready. So I'm excited for what's coming.
Amazing. All right. Yeah. Thanks for the time, bud. Great to see you.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Burke's on his feet. He looks up and gives me a grin and says, "Hey, dude, you too must be from Marin."